So currently, in the first SD2 open beta, there's two divisions to play. 5th Panzer and the 2nd Guards Tank Corps. So, let's go over them. Surprise, surprise, 5th Panzer Division has a lot of Panzers and pretty standard amount of everything else, so very lackluster in recon. These are your income types, pretty standard so far, and you have 50 activation points. A nice amount of recon options from all clears to spar troops, other light vehicles, a Panzer IV recon tank, as well as a Panther recon tank. So if you're worried about any DLC recon tank power creep, well, there's no need. We already got a bloody heavy tank. Well, I guess the Germans classified it as a medium tank in the recon lineup. German infantry, for the most part, have the same weapon loadouts as they did in SD44. Panzer Grenadiers, Sturm Pioneers, and Pioneers all have the same weaponry. There's a BMW bike leader, SS Trooper in our nice A-phase choice, and you also got a 4-man failed Genta Army SMG squad. In terms of transports, you got a very nice selection of Kuba wagons, different sorts of trucks, 251s, 251-10s, and even an SDKFZ-7. There's lots of Panzers in the Panzer Division. What a surprise! You got Panzer IVs, you got Tigers, you got Panther A's and Panther G's, and all of them have a leader version of them. And you can get a lot of these heavy tanks so far. In C-Phase, you can get 8 Infantry run Tigers, which is, well, that's a lot of Tigers. Guns are finally in the support tab, where they belong. In terms of other options, you got flamethrower troops, flamethrower half-track, so the running this has less range and no machine guns, unfortunately. Supply trucks, grills, as well as various commander units, from a lowly half-track to a big bloody Panther. The tank tab is pretty lackluster. I mean, not really using Marder 3s and Pack 40s all that often if you've got lots of Tigers and Panthers at your disposal. You've got different sorts of Panzer Shreks, Pack 36, and the Panzer Boyset. Pack 36 is rather interesting now, as its heat ammunition, the weird little rocket thing, has a Robin, if I can pull it up, 800 meter range, which is much farther than the SD44 one, so now you can actually kill something with that weird little rocket thing. There's a lot of anti-air options from single Flak 38s, Gepards, Flak 43s, SDKFZ 7-1, as well as Flak 88. So you pretty much got an AA gun for every occasion. For artillery, yeah, there's a lot of options. You have your artillery observers, which are actually pretty good because they do have a machine gun. You also have your battery Fuhrer, which does act as a leader unit within the artillery tab and acts as a regular leader. You got all sorts of mortars, all sorts of mortar half-tracks, all sorts of towed artillery guns, and all sorts of self-propelled artillery guns from Rest from Hummels, as well as 105mm off-map and 170mm off-map. This little 10-point recon plane looks like he's ready to fight the Red Baron, or I guess Billy Bishop in this case. There's also a 50-point recon plane if you want something a bit faster. A 75-point Night Fighter, which is used as a strafing plane, kind of like the B-26 Marauder. You can get a crap ton of these Stukas and C-Face, up to 15 in a single card. Messerschmitt 410 Fighter, Messerschmitt 410 strafing plane, which has a bunch of cannons, as well as finally a proper plane, a Fokker Wolf 190 fighter. Fences, you got barbed wire, you got machine gun 42 bunkers, some gun pits, as well as trenches. So a pretty healthy selection, though nothing really too fancy. The 2nd Tank Corps is a pretty similar setup to the 5th Panzer Division, with lots of tanks, everything else is pretty standard, and same, you don't really have that much recon. Same 50 activation points, the exact same incon options, and well, let's jump into the recon tab. Recon options is pretty unfancy. You got some bikes, you got some infantry, you got the Roadrunner unarmored car looking thing. The Devkers are pretty cool because they do actually have a American bazooka and also a T-34 76 recon tank. If I can describe the Russian infantry in 4 syllables, it'd be submachine guns, because they got a lot of submachine guns. We got an 8-man SMG squad with smoke grenades, a 10-man SMG squad with anti-tank grenades. You also have these guards infantry units, and the run of the DP down here is absolutely fantastic, as they have 2 machine guns as well as an anti-tank rifle, which is extremely useful. All sorts of leader units. You got Chaparrees with TNT charters as well as Panzerfaust. And in terms of transports, you got unarmored M2 half-tracks and armed M2 half-tracks. And if I can pull up something a bit more There we go. We also got access to a bunch of different trucks as well. The tanks are just T-34s. You're going to get a lot of T-34s in this division. You got 76s and 85s, different year models of them. The 1944 model of the 85 is much better than the 43, as it does have a much more powerful gun. For 15 points, that's a pretty big difference. As well as these 76s, which have different armor values. Fort's pretty standard. You got flamethrower squads, 2 different machine guns, as well as an infantry gun. The Studebaker is your only supply truck. You got multiple different commanders, mainly in half-tracks or infantry. And the big elephant in the room is the ISU 152, which has a pretty big gun. It also has 4 armor penetration shells, so it can blow up tanks, so it's not the most reliable at that task. God, regular rations of Panzer strikes, it doesn't make any sense. Nonetheless, they have PTRS 41s, they got 45 mils, 57 mils, and 76 mil AT guns. The 76 mil can also be used as an artillery piece. And also some SU-85s, but why do you really need the SU-85s when you have so many goddamn T-34 85s already? The area is pretty lackluster. You got Duskum on the back of a truck, some Maxims on the back of a truck, a 37mm, as well as the Quad 50 cal half track. Like for the Germans, you got a lot of artillery options. You got artillery observers, you got artillery leaders, you got static mortars. You also have a mortar on the back of a bike, which is actually really fun to use. Static 76mm gun, as well as an SU-76, which can also be used as an anti-tank weapon if you so desire, but not the most ideal. And the deadly Katyusha, which can right now just completely shut down Panzer pushes. It's a little bit powerful, as well as you got 152mm off-map artillery. Hey, it's the plane that those scary Russians ladies used to bomb the Germans at night. That's pretty cool, and it's a recon plane in game. That's also pretty cool. You got the Yak-1B and the Yak-9, which are both pretty okay fighters, as well as the Yak-9T, which has a larger 37mm gun compared to the previous Yaks. You got an IL-2 bomber plane and an IL-2 rocket plane, as well as 2 versions of the PE-2, one with a bunch of 100kg bombs, and one with 2 500kg bombs. Your defences are pretty much exactly the same as the Germans: trenches, gun pits, bunkers, and barbed wire. And that's the end of the video. So let's zoom in on this barbed wire. Yup, that wire's pretty barbed.